Hi, this is Dagon123, and welcome to Tenchicast. Hello everybody, and welcome to the next exciting episode of the one and only Tenchicast, hosted by Tenchiforum.com. In 1992, Tenchi made a name for itself instantly in the anime world with its first OVA. However, a large majority of our forum members, and hundreds, possibly even thousands of fans across the globe, consider the best of all the Tenchi series to be its first spin-off, and that is Tenchi Universe, otherwise known as Tenchi TV. With me today, I have quite an exciting cast of people. I have who?
Hello.
I have Silver Whisper.
Hey.
Ryoko Fan.
Hey, everybody.
And JG. I'll just call you JG.
What's up?
Alrighty. When was the first time that you saw Tenchi Universe?
You know, I would say first time I saw it was definitely way back in whatever year it was on Toonami. That would have been probably 2000, I want to guess, top of my head. And it's a little tough for me to remember exactly, but I feel pretty confident in saying that I think might have actually been the first Tenchi series that I actually saw. It certainly was a little more memorable for me. I was younger at the time, and so I guess the story was a little easier to follow. But yeah, Toonami, that was my first introduced.
Well, when I first watched it, I previously watched Muyo. It was on right before Toonami was playing it in circulation. I was about 11 at the time, and I understand that there were separate continuities. It wasn't until now that I understand this. I found Universe to be a lot better in my opinion, and it stuck with me since. It's the most memorable series.
Yeah, I'm like Silver Whisper. I saw it after Toonami ran OVA 1, and then I can't remember. I don't really remember if I saw it from the beginning. All I remember is that the first episode I can truly remember seeing is episode 3. I'm almost pretty sure I saw it from the beginning, but I always remember coming in at episode 3. Yeah, that was about 2000, 2001, whenever it first came on the air on Toonami. So.
Yeah, my experience was it with Cartoon Network's Toonami as well. I've been actually researching that in the background while you guys been talking, and I'm looking at somewhere between 2000 and 2004 is about as close as I can narrow it down right now. I know it was in the summer. Yeah, I was a big Toonami fan. I kind of started back when Gundam Wing started showing up on Toonami, even though I'd seen stuff on there beforehand. But yeah, I watched the first OVA series, and then Universe, and then onward through Tenchi Tokyo and everything they pretty much showed on there. I think after that I went into Anime Unleashed and got into Duel.
My first inkling into Tenchi Universe was on Toonami, just like everybody else's. You know, you'll hear that story a lot. I was totally into Tenchi as soon as I saw the first previews of it in late June of 2000. I'll never forget it, you know, because I was hardcore into Tape and DBZ and, you know, Sailor Moon and all of the anime that they had on there. And, of course, I watched the first OVA, loved it, legendary. And then Tenchi Universe was definitely the culmination. You know, like the very... If anything was going to be a sequel to the first two OVA, it would have been, you know, that one. Even though it was a retelling of the first OVA itself, I really thought that the way that it was set up chronologically could fit it totally. I mean, there are tons of times where people have recycled ways that have done things in future projects, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to get this out of the way right away. Kiyone, or Kiyone Makibi, Mihoshi's one and only Galaxy Police partner. What do you love or hate about her? Go.
I love this dynamic that she adds to Mihoshi and to the Hulk as well. But she really is this great counterbalance to Mihoshi's ditziness and whatever other crazy things she ends up running. Sorry, I got a message that was in my headset. Yeah, I just like how level-headed she is and how she's yeah, she's always she's very capable. Like I said, the opposite of Mahoshi in so many ways. They're like a yin and yang almost. They're just a great comedic duo. Mahoshi's fun. Mahoshi's great in OAV, of course, but her with Kiyone is just double the fun. And seeing Kiyone's frustration with Mahoshi is always entertaining.
Well, I wouldn't say that Kiyone is really a normal character like some people say. I mean, especially in other continuities like Tokyo, where she's literally nuts. But as who said, she kind of is that balance and was that necessary puzzle piece in the Tenchi series, especially with Mahoshi. She was kind of like Mahoshi's mother per se, I guess. And plus, Mahoshi's a police officer. Usually, you have partners. Made more sense. And other than that, I could say that probably greatest kind of characters that comes out later on. Usually, characters that are introduced into from different series are usually looked down upon, but were like said to be, a downfall of a series related anime, cartoons, what have you not. But I thought that the addition of Kiyone and Tenchi Universe is probably one of the most genius things that AIC Pioneer ever did.
First off, it's Kiyone Makibi. What's not to love? I mean, it's like Silver and Who said. Kiyone is a great compliment to Mahoshi's ditziness and how she's always getting into trouble, and Kiyone's always having to bail her out. I'll never forget that episode where they go get an apartment and they have to get multiple jobs. that episode always cracks me up, and I love the fact that Kiyone is always so easily angered at Mahoshi. I just thought that's one of the funniest things.
Well, just to insert something in here for any of those people listening is, according to Wikipedia, Tenchi Universe, I know OVA was played first on Toonami, but the Universe was played first July 20th of 2000 on Toonami. And if anybody wants to come up later and reminisce about the good old days, look up the Toonami Digital Arsenal for all the old promos and stuff that was run on Toonami. But as to Kiyone, I always just liked her character because out of everybody on the Tenchicast, and it didn't really matter which series you were looking at, she was really the only one that had no special abilities, no extra powers. She didn't, phase through walls or have a gigantic intellect or whatever. She was just a down-to-earth gal stuck in a weird situation and having to deal with all the trouble of Mihoshi and all the other weird people around her. But she still managed to have a kind of caring, kind mentality to her, and despite her not having powers, she still had a lot of character and was written extremely well, I think. And she always had that lovely green hair too.
That is true, and I agree with a lot of that. Kiyone really, for me, fit the dynamic of the rest of the cast in the show perfectly. Her character wasn't intrusive to anybody else. Like who Ryoka-fan and Silver have all said, totally counterbalanced Mihoshi's ditziness and her craziness and her ability to get in trouble all the time, whilst Kiyone was the stern, more serious type. I mean, obviously they fit each other like Abbott and Costello. I mean, they were perfect for each other, and their comedy is golden. But I think that Kiyone, more than anything, really helped. She just really helped the show. She really helped carry the feel that Tenchi and the Tenchicast had, and that's what's most important, that you have characters that you can relate to and are totally lovable, and Kiyone is obviously one of the favorites of the show. Now, looking at all of the new characters introduced, who were your favorites and who were your least favorites?
Ooh, I think here it's tough to not want to say Kiyone right off the bat when people think of what, in terms of characters that the universe had and OAV. I think Kiyone is definitely one that popped up right off the bat. I also like Nagi, though, being thrown in there. I know that I wouldn't want to say she takes the place entirely of Ayeka as Ryoko's mortal rival. That's Ayeka, of course. But I don't know. It's just she was a neat protagonist. She's character to throw in the mix. It's in space, spaceships. So yeah, throwing a hot bounty hunter. Why not? Anti-hero. That's the word I was looking for. I apologize from before, but yeah. I liked she threw in. She wasn't good guy per se, but she wasn't a total to the other end of the spectrum. Just a totally evil villain like Kane or Kagato. She had a little bit more dynamics to her. So that's what I would say.
Well, it's like I said before, usually character introduction, new characters tend to be flat. As for Universe's new characters, I have nothing to complain about. I like them all. As I said, Kiyone, Nagi, Kenoki. Though I will say I did like the OAV Kagato better than the Universe one. I didn't really like the fact he was like related to Yosho. It didn't really click in my mind too well. Other than that, it was great.
Yeah, I kind of agree with who. I think out of all the new characters, I think Nagi is probably my favorite. Yeah, and like Silver Whisper said, I like the OVA Kagato better because the Universe one, he just seems kind of a little bit of a pansy almost. I mean, he's obviously evil, but he's not. He just didn't really impress me a whole lot as a villain in the Universe line. So, but yeah, Nog definitely.
I'm going to echo most of what everybody else said. Is I liked Nagi quite a bit. And of course Kenoki and Kiyone as well. I also liked the Guardians, Azaka and Kamadaki, being turned into humanoid characters and giving them a little extra time on screen to be able to do something. Of course, they played video games with Sasami and some other stuff. I thought that was real cute. And it was a needed change to go from log to character. That and Ryoko as well, I think, was my favorite incarnation of her when she sacrificed herself and everybody thought she died at the end of Universe. Which, oops, sorry, spoilers there. But and then later came back with the Dimension of Love song playing at the end. I was just like, yep, that's the perfect ending right there. Cut it off. It doesn't need to go any farther. It's cool. Send it to press.
I agree. Or I also echo the sentiment of the night versions of Azaka and Kamadake. I thought that was a really cool twist. A really cool part of the plot that they added in when they were all going back to Jirai. And I like the characters. I think they really did a good job of designing them in human form as opposed to how they acted as logs, as royal guardians, and even their counterparts. I like those guys too, although I don't remember them by name. Obviously, Nagi and Kenoki. I love those two to death. I think Nagi helped legitimize Ryoko's life as a pirate because even though, or a lot of time in anime, we'll see characters are like, well, I'm a space pirate or I'm an alien, but we don't ever see that. They're stuck in a school or they're whatever. I think adding Nagi in there and adding some of the little backstory to her and Kenoki, I think that really helped make her more of a pirate, give her that extra independent edge that she's always given off and legitimize her independence a little bit. Now, since Universe is an expanded retelling of OVA 1, do you think it lived up to the original material well? Do you think it did better? Or do you think it fell below par?
That's a really, really tough one because I do love both series. So it is, I'm sorry to be wish-wash, but it is difficult for me to definitively say which one I like better. Maybe I answered my own doubts, though, when, I instinctively remembered Universe a little bit more when I got back into Tenchi after it had been on Toonami all those years. But I will say, I definitely think it, when you asked, did it live up to it? Did it, up to par? I think it did. I really liked. I liked the way it started out. Again, with Ryoko was the first girl that Tenchi encountered in OAE, and it was that much was similar in Universe, but it was a totally different take on it. But it was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the way Ryoko shows up, literally crashes to Tenchi's life, and it's just chaos right after that. I think that's so fitting. So I think it did definitely live up, and if people want they like Universe more than, I think that's totally legitimate. assertion to make on any grounds. Character, plot. It's a very well done final product, no matter how you look at it, in my opinion.
Well, granted, I didn't really like Universe 11 years ago because I didn't understand why Tenchi was meeting all the girls again. Nowadays, I have to say, it's probably one of the best Tenchi series out there. Maybe equal to the OAV. I mean, the OAV had that certain charm to it. But I mean, if you put OAV 3 into it, then yeah, it's much better. I have to say, I mean, considering that it was made to be a TV show, it fits so well on TV, and it fits so well into mind. I could understand it when I was, I don't know, 11 years old back then, and comparing it to the OAV where you have all these curveballs being thrown at you. I mean, it's just more direct. The plots make more sense. And again, everything they added, they did a good job with it. They didn't put anything unnecessary.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Silver said. The storyline for Universe does make a whole lot more sense if you factor in OVAs 1, 2, and 3 together. But even just OVA 1 versus Universe, I'm still probably going to go with the Universe, but because, like I said, the storyline just makes more sense. It doesn't just go along at a certain point and then at one episode it just throws all this stuff at you. And plus, there's also the pro Ryoko ending. That's always good. Yeah, I would have to say I prefer Universe a little bit more than OVA 1.
Well, I'm going to try and hash out a couple of things here. Is that we're kind of comparing. It's been somewhat touched on already, but we're kind of comparing apples to oranges. Yeah, if we look back on history and said if we were brand new anime fans and we were coming into the fandom and we had OVAs 1, 2, and 3 and GXP and Duel and Photon and Spaceship Agaruter and half a dozen other series made by Kamijima in there. You've got a lot different stuff to have to deal with, and you have more history and weird things, and of course it being an OVA, the episodes were released in different order and over a different amount of time, whereas Tenchi TV or Universe was released to be a TV series one after the other on a regular showing schedule. We're also having to realize that on the OVA timeline, you've got the novels, you've got the doujins, you've got the all this extra filler material that came out over a very long period of time and still to this day is largely untranslated for the English viewers. The Japanese have a whole different viewpoint on things than we do. Plus, Cartoon Network did censor a lot of things in the original showings. I'm noticing that going through the YouTube channel videos here recently. But, to say fairly that you've got a comparison between just OVA 1 and Tenchi TV, yeah, it's easy to say Tenchi Universe because you had a lot more content there. You had, 20-something episodes of Tenchi TV, and we had like 6 or 8, I guess 7 maybe, on OVA 1. And yeah, it is more broken up and more scattered in the OVA because you've got so much different amounts of mess there over such a long period of time. But both series were continued with novels. I think you've got the True Tenchi novels over there that continue on the series, and you've got that the movies that continue on the Tenchi Universe timeline, as well as that Eternal Memory manga. So, yeah, if we're just going to compare, just the series animation part of it and say which one was better, OVA 1 versus TU, I'd go with Universe as well because there's just plain more there. As to a complex plot, if you were going to ask, I'd probably say OVA 1 because it had more weird sci-fi stuff to it. But for just pure enjoyable fluff, I'd go with Universe.
I'm going to agree with everybody's assessment. I totally like Universe more. That's not to say that I don't think that OVA 1 is fantastic. in every way. Obviously, when AIC decided to do a TV version of OVA 1, they had to extend it because they were given 26 episodes. Universe did a great job at expanding on the main cast and fleshing out smaller parts of the characters' personas in non-intrusive ways. Such as adding Nagi's Ryoko's rival, the Royal Guardians, and of course Kiyone to Mihoshi. But I think they also carried the fact that some of the things couldn't transfer over from the OVA. One being the budget, because despite the fact that it is a 26 episode series, generally OVA have more budget TV series do, because they have to be released on a regular schedule. They don't have the same number of just everything, despite the fact that they're longer. And content rating wise, obviously Tenchi Universe was made for TV, so even some of the jokes that we found funny don't always come over well, like with Ryoko being naked in the onsen and her, playing with Tenchi and Ayeka. Comedy like that has to be traded for a little bit more slapstick comedy or other comedy that is not as mature, I guess. And even with stuff like that, even with small barriers like that, Tenchi Universe was able to overcome that pretty well, and I think really make a name for itself among the fans. If you had to pick one thing in Universe that it really shined at doing or failed at doing, what would that be?
Oh, let me see here. Well, not to be negative, but I want to think harder about what it shined at. But I mean, there's a couple stuff I think that was mentioned. Small aspects that didn't quite live up to if you compared it to the OAV, such as Kagato was brought up. I think you would be hard pressed to find a Tenchi fan that would disagree with that. But hey, if that's your opinion, that's great. But how do you compete with the Kagato of OAV? He was just his ultimate villain. And then another thing was we don't have Washu and Ryoko have a relation like they do the mother-daughter relationship that we see in OAV, and I think that that led for some hilarious moments in the OAV. It's a whole nother ball game when not only does Ryoko have these other girls for competition, then or mom into the mix. You're just, oh my gosh, But that could be one of the things like Dagon touched on was maybe to tone down certain things for TV for American kids watching it or what have you. But I guess what it really shined at, I think, was his identity being revealed to him, as being descended of this noble house of this alien society we learn is, called Jirai. It does so, I think, really well in a corny way, but Tenchi has this destiny about him. He's wield the sword Tenchi, and he's meant to right the wrong and take the usurper Gato off the throne, and because he's the rightful heir to the Jirian throne. I think his identity of being of Jirian nobility was more relevant to the plot than it was in OAV. OAV, it hinted at that at first, but then we kind of find out, well, that's not really the most important thing. There's also he used, light wings, and he turns out to kind of an anomaly that the gods are interested in, and it goes on to all that. But yeah, I think ties in with the plot being a little more accessible and a little simpler for a TV series. But I really like that, the way Tenchi really had this role to fill, and it was extremely pivotal to the plot.
Well, everything that questionable at the end of Tenchi Universe, all the plot holes. Personally, I thought they were all closed with the two movie sequels. And as for what who said, I agree. It was made for television, so obviously it's more centered on Tenchi, and so they had to change the plot. Ayeka wasn't directly related to the royal family and whatnot. So I'd say those were acceptable sacrifices that really didn't hurt the series whatsoever. In fact, made it better.
Well, what I really liked about it, I guess you could call it where it shined at, was the character development. And that with all the characters, Ryoko is this notorious space pirate, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Dagon. They added in Nagi, who has been called the best bounty hunter in the galaxy, and she's after Ryoko. So that, for me, that really solidified her reputation as a notorious space pirate. I just thought the character development throughout the whole series was really well done, especially with Azaka and Kamadake, the Knights and the Guardians both as well. I just thought that was really well done.
I think pretty much between Ryoko fan and Who, you summed it up quite a bit. As the things I liked, I would have said, character development, some of the music, the music overall between both OVA and TU is pretty good. But, things I didn't like everybody else said, Kagato he was pathetic. I mean, I'm pretty sure if memory serves, I haven't watched TU again yet. He only had like half of an episode, or maybe even a quarter of an episode at the very end, that Tenchi actually fought him, and it was over in like 5 minutes. So it was completely anticlimactic. Kagato of the OVA had his big old pipe organ on his, spaceship of doom, and all the rest of it. Classic either vampire or villain type look to him. But the only other thing, I actually preferred the Ryoko Washu mother relationship of the OVA, just because, they had an interesting dynamic, and one could always bug the other, and it was kind of like Ryoko's weak spot to see her mother come up and say, can you call me mom? And so forth. That was always fun, more so than the mad scientist kind of angle they took on Washu in TU. The character development was good all the way around, though. I think pretty much everything's already been said.
If I had to say what I thought Tenchi Universe really shined at doing, I would have to say pacing and the writing for the characters, their character development all. I think the one thing that Hiroshi Nagishi looked at when he saw the characters and AIC told him to do that was he really nailed what made the characters the character. There are obviously small dynamics like Washu and Ryoko being mother and daughter and, the dry politics, but a lot of that was just completely was put off to the side, and the entire show itself is centered around the characters. What the characters do, where the characters go, and to me, that is a home run, because the characters are the people telling the story. It's not the story and the characters being secondary. Like it's been said multiple times throughout the podcast, Ryoko being a pirate, they really focused on Ryoko having an attitude and being, her going after Tenchi. They really made each of the characters more concentrated in their attitudes and how they acted. Like, for instance, Washu was a god, and she was, a whole plethora of things in the OVA, but the most important thing that they showed in Universe was her being the super mad scientist, which made for, a ton of laughs and a ton of other things, but more than anything, I think it's really what made their character unique. They had a super uniqueness to them, as opposed to being a whole number of characters. Now, obviously, that has its ups and downs, when you're looking at character depth, but I think overall as a TV series, it was totally a home run. And as far as pacing goes, I think they did a fantastic job of really building stuff up better. Even in OVA 1, where we had the fight between Kagato and Tenchi, I think they did as good or better in Universe with not necessarily the fight itself, but the way that they set it up. Obviously there was, Tenchi finally grafting the Lighthawk wings and, Ryoko going after him, but there was just almost like a Mexican standoff epicness of when everybody's running towards Kagato's lair, Aika's trapped up there, and they're like facing off against each other. That really didn't happen in the OVA. In the OVA, it was just kind of like lots of surges of energy, and then Kagato disappears in one slash, as opposed to, like I just said, the standoff feel. And that's one thing that I totally loved about Universe. They really knew how to build you up, bring you down, obviously bring you down. Look at the end of the series, and then bring you back up again. And it really does a good job of hiding all of the faults that the series has, because you're so busy being enthralled with the characters, and figuring out what's going to happen, loving, hating, the whole 9 yards, and that's why Universe is my favorite, because it was the best roller coaster ride of all of the series. Finally, last but certainly not least, would you like to see a continuation of Universe? Whether that's a continuation of the last movie, Tenchi Muyo in Love 2, or a continuation of the series itself.
I will say, I think the canon with Universe and the films, I really think it tied up nice and neatly. It was did well, and everything was wrapped up well, and it was hinted at, that Tenchi and Ryoko, there's something there, and I liked it ended. I think they did a great job with that. But however, of course, as a Tenchi fan, I would love to see more with Universe line, which in my opinion, from where OAV ended up going, I think that would be a lot easier to do with Universe. I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm saying, narrative-wise, it could definitely be done. Could always see more Hoshi, Kiyone moments. We could see more Washu's experiments going crazy and causing mayhem. And, of course, more Tenchi, Ryoko moments. There's a lot of people here and on our probably agree that's a good thing, and more Ayaka Ryoko squabbling. I would definitely love to see that. That would be great.
Well, I think Universe was pretty much perfected. I don't think you can really add anything on. You could, and I wouldn't complain if they do add, but I think more attention needs to be put on the OAV, especially considering the third one, which, if anything, made people more confused. And I mean, thing is, with 20th anniversary of Tenchi coming up, I mean, it might just be wishful thinking, but I mean, anything's bound to happen. We might even see a separate new continuity. What I'd like to see personally is the OAV rebooted, and some elements in the universe put into the OAV, and some other new elements. Don't know what, but it'd be exciting. Other than that, would I like to see another continuation of Universe? Sure, why not? But would I like to see a continuation of the OAV? Definitely.
Oh man, this gonna be a hard one for me. I kind of agree with Silver. I mean, I thought overall the story, when it ended, wrapped up really well, and the two movies, that was just icing on the cake in my opinion. But that's kind of a hard question, because you asked if would you rather see a movie or a series. I'm not really sure, because a movie, it runs an average from an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then when it's over, that's all you're done with it. But with a series like Universe, when that first came on, when it ended, you got to know these characters. You got to see how they acted, see their lives, what they did, and all that. But oh man, that's hard. If I had to pick one, I would have to say probably another movie.
Well, I'm going to start out saying that like I said, I haven't seen the Tenchi Muyo and Love movies. I'm almost afraid to watch them, because I've kind of heard third hand over the course of the last 10 years or so what might be in them, and I've seen the Eternal Love manga, and I wasn't impressed as to how it really handled things. But the problem I see is that as long as Kajishima Masaki is essentially the head or the representative for all things Tenchi in relation to AIC, we're not going to see anything else besides the OVA and whatever he wants to do as spin-offs. The guys that were behind Tenchi Universe, essentially wrote what they did. They made the movies, they did the novels, which it sounds like, there's enough people here that definitely like Universe enough that, picking up on the novels would be another way to expand rather than getting a movie or another TV series. But I don't think we're going to get that option anytime soon with the way things are going over there in Japan and the rest of it. I mean, I could see them doing something like that Pretty Sammy club spin-off that they did here recently, which kind of rebooted that. I can't remember how well it did, but it seemed like it flopped because it wasn't in the news very long. It just kind of died. And I would like to see the OVA kind of rebooted and integrated with some elements from Tenchi Universe, like Kiyone. I mean, I'm not fond of the idea of Noike, or however you pronounce that in English. I'm not fond of her. I'm kind of like Kyoka, one of the members on Tenchiforum, that I'd much prefer Kiyone over her, and keep some of the elements from OVA and see it continued. And finally close the book on that thing, because it's been going on and on and on, and it's getting old, and they need to clean it up and just let it rest, die, finish, end. Clean up this whole mess of the Chosen and the Tenchi and weird powers and Jirai and all the rest of the craziness, and maybe start something new. Go do another series. Make a new 2011, 2012 Tenchi Muyo, and give us another series to get interested in and bring new fans into, with updated animation and new songs and new adventures and things, and then us old fans can share with the new fans, and bring everything under one roof again. The problem is all the copyrights and all the different canon and all the different stuff that's got to be translated, and it's just a mess for anybody in the English fandom. Like I said, it's so much different for everybody over there in Japan. So, we need to update it for the current generation, I think, and hopefully not destroy it in the process. We don't need Tenchi Muyo the Naruto Chronicles or something. Not that I'm hating on Naruto people, but still, it's kind of where I'm at in a disjointed sort of way.
And that is a fantastic response. I've always been a firm proponent of bringing Tenchi into the new age. I think that one of the problems that Tenchi has, little sidebar, is that it's not done yet. Like, the original Tenchi is not quote-unquote done. We've seen a lot of series get rebooted, or, continuations of stuff that hasn't seen anime, such as Berserk. Rurouni Kenshin's newest anime promos just came out, and those all appeal to newer fans. They all have, as well as the older fans. I mean, they're a really good gateway, and that's good for everybody. That's good for all fans, and that's what's most important. Unfortunately, Tenchi is kind of stuck in its revolving door with Masaki Kajishima, and unfortunately, all the people who worked on Tenchi Universe at AIC now work at another animation company who just opened up recently, Hiroshi Negishi, Taro Maki, the producer, and it kind of feels wrong, because we haven't really seen something universally adorned by fans from Tenchi in a long time, and I think that's partly because it hasn't hit that hump, hasn't finished. But back on the subject of Universe, I would like to see something super definitive of the pro Tenchi Ryoko complex. We knew at the very end of Tenchi Universe, we look at the end of Universe, and there's a part where Tenchi and Ayeka are there, and Ayeka asks Tenchi to stay with her, and he says, "No, I can't." And he goes back to Earth. And who's waiting for him on Earth? Ryoko. I'm not going to get into the debate on who's better, because that's all relative to who you are and what fan you are, and that's important. But with Tenchi Forever, which, by the way, JG, they're not bad movies at all. Lots of people like to make fun of Tenchi Forever, but Tenchi Muyo in Love 1 is bulletproof. It's a great movie, and I would totally recommend it. As a Tenchi Ryoko shipper, Tenchi Forever sealed it up almost, but it does the classic Tenchi ending style, and that it leaves it just open enough that there could be something more. And I would like to see something in universe, whether that be, I think another movie would be better as far as writing would go, that would really solidify that, would really give a lot of people that when they come back into it, like, hey, I heard there was a new Tenchi movie. What's the first thing that people always ask? Who did he pick? And I think, at least, and since it's a spin-off, you could obviously have many different camps complain or not complain about it. But I think for fans such as myself, I think it would be nice to have that extra little piece of vindication. I've been a fan this long. This is obviously a really big thing in the universe timeline. I would like to see Tenchi and Ryoko be officially recognized in a movie. And obviously build up to it, not just that entire movie being, sad fan fiction. No, I'm not a fan of that. That's what I would like to see as a continuation. Do I think it'll happen anytime soon? Who knows? If Masaki Kazushima fell over dead, AIC would have to pick somebody else. But that is pretty much where we're going to end it today. I want to thank all of you guys for joining in here and putting up with me not being here last time. For all you guys who were there, do you guys have anything you want to add before we end it?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for listeners
Dual
out
rule.
there that might be like JG not seeing the movies here, but that's a whole nother side topic, I guess. Is Tenchi's mom. I won't go. From the 2 series, won't go deep into that, but yeah, that's the first Tenchi movie is great with introducing Tenchi's mom, Achika, as another character, and that's she's just yet again another example of that whole continuity's ability to really draw you in, very memorable characters, and that's I got it, I guess.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm aware of the Tenchi movies kind of plot in a vague sense, but ironically, I had the chance to actually pick up the VHS tape at a Hollywood Video several years ago, but the place had just had its roof redone, and it smelled so much of asbestos I couldn't stay in the building, so I didn't end up picking it up. But I don't think they could have screwed up the OVA thing with Tenchi's sister and his mother anymore by cheapening it, by making her out to be a goofball Olev as OVA 3, when OVA 1 and 2, Tenchi's got, a definite hard spot in his heart, or a soft spot as it were, maybe, about that being a pivotal point in his past as to being a pain. And then OVA 3 comes around, it's like, oh, no, your mom was a goofball. We just made it out to believe, all the rest of it. But whereas, it sounds like they did a much better job in Universe, and then you've, got more things to think about in that area.
My friends, there is one person who is Tenchi's mother, and that is Achika Masaki. When Katsuhito Yosho said he's the serious type just like his mother, Achika is his mother. There's no doubt about it. That's why people love her so much. And there is one, my friends, one partner to Mihoshi Kurumitsu, and that is Kiyone Makibi, our favorite Galaxy police officer. Thank you guys again. Until next time, stay gold.